On an earlier video, I talked about power and how it operates. Now I want to take that concept, bring it a little farther down. I want to talk about oppression.
Shut up! Oh, come and see the violence inherent in the system! Help! Help! I'm being repressed! Bloody peasant! Oh, what a giveaway! Did you hear that? Did you hear that?
I love that clip. Anyway, almost every definition I've read about involves someone with power holding their domination over someone else. One way of explaining oppression is that there must be an exploitation or denial of a specific variable. That variable can be many things. I like logic, so let's see how that looks in a logical equation. P represents power. Power must be present if there is to be any sort of oppression. E represents exploitation. The little V that you see there, it means and or. The D represents denial. So this means there needs to be an exploitation and or a denial. One or the other or both together, doesn't matter. The X is our variable. O is oppression. If all of these are satisfied, you get oppression in the end. Instant wardrobe change. When you're filling in that variable for X, it can be many things such as race, class, sex, size, many other things. We'll address those in later videos. We're going to leave it a bit in the abstract right now. One way of understanding what makes those traits targets for oppression, we have to define normal. Have you ever thought about what's normal? I've seen this debated many times. What is normal? Often the conclusion people come to is nothing is normal, and it's kind of futile to discuss it. I argue that there is a normal. Here's how we're going to find it. For all you stats nerds out there, you'll recognize this as a standard distribution, also known as the bell curve. If you take any trait among any group of people and you graph enough of those traits, it tends to fall under this shape. Everything on that graph in the darker red we call one standard deviation from the mean, so roughly 68% of the population. I say let's just call that normal. Where people start to get in trouble is when they start to throw judgments on anything that's not within that one standard deviation. We'll call that the other. And there's really nothing wrong with that. You can put this graph together based on any of the gazillions of traits you can do that, and we're all going to fall into this other at some point or another. So it's just math. It's the people that throw the judgments on it. We also get problems when there's a perceived normal. Maybe this trait that you're pushing as being normal, throwing some strange judgments on there, isn't even representative of the population you're in. But you have the power to push it as normal. So in that case, it doesn't even matter what the math is. Now remember, these are just numbers. They're offering no judgments. It's not good or a bad thing to be part of that section or not. It just is. Next thing we find now is this brings us to the cycles of oppression. Take a look. So thinking of groups that are the perceived other at this point, we get a systemic mistreatment of that group. This leads to misinformation and ignorance regarding that group. This becomes socially sanctioned beliefs and attitudes about them. This justifies that mistreatment, and then the cycle continues. It's actually really hard to end this cycle, because we're all in it at some point. We all have these attitudes. You can't say you don't, because I'm going to make an assumption we're all from planet Earth. We all have some oppressive attitudes about us. It's in. As human beings, we're constantly trying to understand the world around us. I'm going to suggest a concept that comes from childhood development from the psychologist Piaget. I can never remember the first names of these people. I'm a last name only person. So as Piaget was studying childhood development, he noticed something. Any parents out there with young children, you might notice the same thing. So let's say a dog walks by, and you tell your child, that's a dog. They say, alright, it's a dog, I get that. And then a few minutes later, a cat walks by, and they say, hey, it's a dog. You say, no, it's a cat. You might be a little confused at first. They might be like, you told me that was a dog. Now you're telling me it's a cat. What's going on? What's happening here is the schema for animals is growing in that child, and they're learning to differentiate that not all animals are called dogs, and not all dogs are the same, not all cats are the same, and there's these massive categories of things out there that we have to learn. And in some ways, as humans, we're very good at this. We just can categorize the tiniest little detail. But when it comes to people, it seems we have trouble doing this from time to time. So when thinking about people and how this works as we grow older, for some reason we stop developing those schemas about things around us. And it's really quite strange that we do that. Now, I'm tall. I'm going to use myself as an example. I am more than 1 standard deviation above the average height, so I am other when it comes to height. Doesn't really bother me, and fortunately it's not really been something that has been oppressed in our society. But I do get people all the time would tell me, you must be very good at basketball. I'm not, actually. Every now and then I can get the ball in the hoop, but I'm really not that good. But people would assume this. Now, my point in all this is that we start to see oppression when people stop integrating new information into their schemas about whatever that group is that's being oppressed. Now, what I can suggest we start doing about this is just be open to new information, and also start to unlearn some of these other beliefs you might hold that are problematic and oppressive. You'll find you'll probably be happier, and other people are going to start to be happier too. My next video, I'm going to take this out of the abstract a little bit. We're going to talk about racism, and I'll have a few videos after that that talk about other types of oppression. If you're interested in this topic, hit subscribe and you can see more of these videos, and hopefully this all made sense to you.